Okay, so now we're ready to start dialing in our jump. We correctly have our player going from jump to fall to run, and we can transition back to jump, which will have us go back to fall and to run. Everything's working as it's supposed to be. Now we can start kind of dialing in our jump. Now, there's a couple things that I would like to do. If I was in my jump, I don't want to have to be forced to always go from the max part of my jump. Sometimes I'd like to cut my jump short. If I want to jump higher, I want to be able to jump higher. So I want to kind of dial in that. The same as my fall. I want to be able to modify how fast I fall. Maybe I want to fall faster. Like I want to kind of exit out of my jump by hitting, say, the down arrow. So let's kind of play around with starting out with our fall state. The first thing that we want to do is we want to make ourselves so we don't feel so floaty. So I want to play around with a couple different values for our player when we transition to a fall state. Now, the big thing about this is that if I directly change my player's position or my player's velocity, it will not interact with the collisions as well. So what I want to do is I always got to be in consideration of actual forces. So I could increase the mass of my player to some certain amount. I could increase the gravity that is being applied to the player when they go into the fall state so that they fall faster. I could increase the velocity maybe by having that apply force, but instead of it pushing up, it's pushing down. So I could tweak this in a number of different ways. The way that I'm going to have us do it is apply force scaled. Let's play around with that, and we'll use that to bump us down when we're in a fall state. And we're going to do that while we're in the enter, because we don't really want, at least right now, we want, as soon as we transition to a fall state, we just want to kind of just address the normal jump. So here is where I would want to be able to increase some force that's pushing down, so I don't have the same timing as when I'm going up as when I'm going down. So apply force scaled. So in here, this is basically what we want to do. We want to increase that force. Now we can choose our X and Y for what that may be. So I know I'm not going to do anything on my X, but I want to increase going down. So if I did, and we start playing with some values to see, what is increasing. So let's say I just start out at 200. See what happens when I jump. Ooh. My error. Apply force scale is not a function. It is, but I need to apply it on my sprite, not on my subject. So let's try again. Okay. Do we see that? That does have me increasing. That looks a little weird. So maybe not that much. It's just kind of adjusting my speed. That looks better. When it was too high, it looked a little weird. So I can kind of play around with these values until I find something that I'm kind of happy with. Again, this could be some composite value that's based off of the actual player. So if I was counting the time, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 1, yeah, so faster than 2 seconds coming down, so that's good. All right, so that would be kind of like me transitioning down. I may tweak this more later on, but now I want to be able to, while I'm in my jump state, I want to have where I'm jumping, and I want to be able to transition to the fall state earlier. Okay, so that would be somewhere in my handle input. I need to be looking for a key command. So I'm just going to go to the idle state, and I'm going to pull this because I don't, instead of me having to recopy it retype it every single time. So inside my handle input of my jump state, I want to transition to fall by pressing the down arrow is what I'm going to do. Okay. Now, if I wanted to do this with the S on the S key, that would be fine too. Now, there's a number of ways that we could do it. Let's look at for how we can do controls. Actually, let's do input. So here, we can look by keyboard movements, okay, which could be us actually just pressing stuff like the keys on there, but we can also look for arrow down, arrow right, arrow left, and any of that stuff. Okay. So we couldn't actually look for down here. Since WASD is very common and the arrow keys, this would look for either one. So that might be preferential. So here, so we're applying a force in that direction based off the speed. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use that down. So if they press down, then we want to return the fall state. And we can transition to a fall state faster. Okay, now let's see if that's happening. So let's go into a fall state. And I'm just going to comment in this right there. Okay, so I'm jumping and I immediately am pressing the fall state. So that's my full jump. I'm transitioning earlier. So I'm able to transition, but it doesn't matter how fast I'm doing it. I'm still kind of just applying an initial force. So we do have it transitioning, but what we can do is we can have, let's say I'm continuing to hold it down. I could, while I'm in the fall state, also do something with that value. So in here, when we're in the jump, we press down. And so the benefit, though, is since we have these states, I can have where if I'm doing something while I'm in a different state, say the fall state, and I'm also pressing down, then instead of transitioning to a different state, because I can't transition to a state that I'm already in, that's what I set. But I could maybe adjust what I'm doing while I'm in the fall state. So maybe I'm applying some additional force that's getting pushed down. So maybe this is getting changed that I'm doing for the player. Maybe I'm applying some something like that. So I'm applying some more force on there. So we have this initial push, and then we can do this value in our update and do some other stuff. So transition fall by pressing the, so we want to increase the fall rate. By continually pressing. The down arrow. Okay, so this is basically, we don't want to return anything now, but if we're going to do something in our update, like apply force scaled, sprite.apply force scaled. That's going to be if this amount should be changing, then that actually is pointing out that we want to start having some value. So I might want, instead of me applying the force scaled initially here, maybe I want to apply force scaled continually in the update and then change that value that I'm doing it. Okay, so there's a number of ways that we can kind of build this up. So if we are not doing like one solid push, but we are incrementally increasing the amount that we're going down, and it's something that's happening every frame. If we're doing this here, then this will start compounding on itself, and this may be problematic. So I'm commenting out that so we can kind of see, but that was 120. Let's just say I'm doing 12. We can kind of watch what happens. Okay, that was just 12, but that's because it's applying multiple times. Okay, and as the benefit of this is that as we were going down, it was going faster and faster and faster, which is, not bad. Okay, so what this means though is if we wanted to press down where we are changing that value, this needs to be something that we're holding on to. So let's say, in this case, I want to actually have a fall rate. So this dot fall rate, and let's say I give it a value like 15, then I can actually change in here, this dot fall rate. The benefit of this is that if I want to continually press that down key, I can speed up my fall. So I could say something like this dot fall rate plus equals 2. So the longer that I'm pressing, I can do something to it. But now, my fall rate is very fast all the time, okay? And that's because I'm not getting rid of my fall state. It's the same one. So when I enter my fall rate, I need to actually specify what that value is. That's why we have the enter and exit. I can give it a starting value. When I exit, I can even put it back. Sometimes you may end up having to use the enter and an exit, or both. Some examples when we would use it is that if we were doing animations, I would need to start my animation when I go into the state, but when I exit, I'm going to have to reset my index value to the start of the animation or something to that effect, so that when I start the animation again, I'm starting at the start of the animation instead of leaving where I went off the last time. Okay, so this is a way that I can control like what's happening to those values as I'm transitioning back and forth from jump to fall. Okay, so that is predictable. All right, so I've kind of dialed that in a little bit. The next thing that we can kind of dial in is that, let's say if we were, if we pressed a down key when we're in the jump, we are transitioning to the fall state. But what if I wanted to increase when I'm jumping up? If I press, I want to give some force to that. I could remove some of the gravity. I could apply some more of that force while I'm going up, maybe another impulse force that I'm applying. So I could maybe do something like this. Maybe not the same amount, but I could do that. So for example, and this would probably be a good time, if that was my jump, let's say that I'm going to do that as my dynamic creature, I'm going to want to hold those values. So I'll do this at the end, but let's say that I call this jump strength. And we'll say it equals 1570. Then when I'm in here, instead of me doing this, I can just say this dot subject dot jump strength. and I can actively change these values to anything that I want. But if I wanted to do like another jump, like while I'm in the jump, I wanted to be able to transition to another jump. So I want to do a smaller secondary jump. Like if I was close to the top of my jump and I wanted just that last little bit, maybe I'm going to do something here. I can't return another jump state because I'm in the jump, but I could say that if I was pressing the space bar again, maybe within a certain amount of time of me being in the jump state, that instead of me returning this, maybe I'm doing another impulse force like this. And maybe it's not going to be the full strength, but maybe it's going to be like half of what my normal is. So let's just see what that looks like. So that's my jump. There's my second jump. I can do another one. I can only do one though. Let's see. Nope. I've introduced double jumps, triple jumps, because it never needs to stop as long as I'm still in my jump. So as long as I haven't started moving down, I can hit it again. So what we want then is that we need a certain period of time of like when we are picking something up, that we're allowing it to happen. So here, I might want to do something like this, holding. And I could also do where I'm not allowing a third jump to happen. So I can actually put flags inside my code. So maybe I want to hold a certain amount of frames like this. After I've held for a little bit, I can do a certain amount of force and do another kind of push, but that's it. All right, so right now we have where we're pushing the space bar for the player, and I'm applying that force. I can also add in here, registering if there was a double jump. So let's say double jump, and I'll say it's false starting right now. I put it when I go into my jump as false. When they press the space bar again, I only want this to happen once, but I can set it to true. So this dot double jump is true, and then I can check to make sure that it's false in here. So, and this dot double jump. That would only allow me to do it one time to have this fire. Now, I could also have where maybe I only want a certain amount of time when I can do the double jump in my jump. So there's my jump, but if I want it to be only like right away, or I have to hold a certain amount, I can kind of dial this in. I could play around with this. Instead of doing presses, I could do pressing, or I could actually look for how long I've done it by, say, something like this, which is looking for a certain amount of frames. Okay, so I can kind of keep checking for these values. Well, that makes my jump way too high, so I might do even smaller. That's my normal jump. So there's a couple things that I think I want to do. I notice a couple things. One, when we get close to the top, I want to actually transition. I want to force a transition from my jump. I don't want really jumping out of the screen. So in here, I'm checking if the velocity is greater than or equal to pretty close to 0. I can also check if my sprites dot position dot y is, let's say, less than or equal to, say, some value up here, like let's say 100. I want to transition to a fall state. So even if I jump, now it's not letting me go off the screen as easily. Okay. I also see some things with my bounce. I kind of have that little bounce right there. And if I time it, that's a little bit of a bug that I want to dial that in also. So some of this, I probably want to change my bounciness of my player to 0, so that's some of the physical attributes of the sprite. So if we look down here, physical attributes, I can change things like the friction, drag force, all that stuff. High drag, see how I fell slower? That could be something that I'm doing to kind of change my gravity or change of force. Is it, on how fast I'm moving along things. I can have less bounce. I can have more bounce. So let's make our bounciness for a player 0. So I'll go to dynamic creature because I'm not really using those. So this dot sprite dot bounciness equals 0. That fixes some. And I can transition to faster fall. We got a double jump. And I might have where I have to have held it for a couple frames. I could even put the jump within some type of timer where I'm looking for a space bar but within a very certain time frame of when I started the jump. The same as if I was doing a fall. If I wanted to have some type of coyote jumping where I wanted to be able to jump when I'm falling, I could also check for a timer. So that's basically how we would kind of set up for really kind of dialing in. I think I'm all right with where I'm at so far. I can further dial in as we get farther into our game to find out what I like and what I don't like. But dialing in a good jump and your transitions and your states is key to making sure that your game is fun and playable for everybody. You want to have a good balance between the mechanics being skill based. I don't want to have it where it's just kind of luck that I'm winning the game. It should be based off of my skill. Okay. All right. There's one thing here that I don't know if you guys notice. When I jump, it looks like this is counting here in the jump state. It looks like it's counting just a little bit. Let's see. And I will save this for you guys. This is probably where we want to actually look for how long we've been playing, how long we've been pushing the jump. But I believe that we are in there as soon as I hit the space bar, if I'm holding it. I guess not. Yep. Okay. So that's it for this. Make sure you guys get your jump dialed in because we're going to be using that moving forward as we're building our other states. So good luck. Have fun.